Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 16th, 2024 at approximately 4:31 PST. Now, I have chosen to make it my life path to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I personally utilize to guide just about every move I make. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they have continued to work for me and have worked for literally thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal effort. Now, we are going to be looking at literally the power of love versus the power of fear today. But before we get into it, I do want to say, welcome aboard. Storm is here, back up and running properly, handling the technical side of things, and of course, making the problem children feel just as welcome as we'd like them to. Needless to say, I don't have a lot of use for problem children. However, even with the children that have been problems in the past, if you behave yourself after you've gone through whatever disciplinary action Storm and or LA, and for that matter, Nathan, put in place, then you're still welcome back. Just don't create a problem. It's easy. Because for me, it's simple. I get too many problems, I just pull the plug. Now, that being said, let us roll up here, and we have. I'm looking down. Did I miss somebody? I don't think so. Looks like Nathan is in the house with the gold. How's it going, Nathan? Glad you could join us. And I take it you're not actually working tonight. Well, you got a show tonight anyway. But I am glad you made it. Then we have, let's see, we scroll down, we have Rachel Andrews is in with the silver. How's it going, Rachel? I know your day's busy. It always is. Then we have LA Moon, who is our other primary moderator, who, on top of everything else, and while she's making sure that the communication lines still run, she also keeps a real solid eye out on me as far as my own health goes. To that end, I literally just finished off half a chicken before I came on air. So I should be good on that one. And then we go down a little further, and that was Rachel. And we have Joe comes in with the bronze. How's it going, Joe? Glad you could join us. And then we have Renee Andrews coming in with honorable mention. So today we're looking at love versus fear. Well, when we think about it, you only have two baseline emotions to deal with. Technically you've got three. Because of the way that the theory of relativity applies, you have love, fear, and everything else in between. Oh, there we go. LA goes, you're behaving better than I. You're behaving better than I, Keith. I'm taking this if this means you didn't actually get dinner yet. Now I could go into what all the fear things could be, and I've had my fair share of them, as we've already discussed. But we start off with this. If you don't know how to love yourself, we're not going to get into where that could go. Start with this neat little sign. I am worth it. Get that. If you haven't done so already, get it on your fridge today. That is the four most powerful words in combination that I have come across in any language. Whether it's spoken or written, doesn't matter. But in order to actually love somebody else, it is imperative you learn to love yourself. But I will tell you, sometimes it works the other way around. Sometimes it takes finding that special someone that is literally going to accept you as is in order for you to finally get it through your head that you're actually a special individual. And yes, I fought that argument with myself for literally my entire life. So what I'm going to suggest is literally every morning, okay, it's hold that phone, that would be the little brother. Hello. Hello. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Like I said, family has to be first. The moment you start, and when I'm referring to family, by the way, this does not always mean that we are talking about bloodline. Okay, family is the people you choose to call family, and rest assured that's not always bloodline. I've seen family, I mean, let's face it, you take a look at a group of people that I'm sure those of you in the States know about. Way back, I think it was in the mid 1800s, they had a wonderful little family feud going on between the Hatfields and McCoys. Okay, family isn't always amicable, but when you can put your own issues aside, or more to the point, take your own boundaries, put them at the forefront and go, here's the boundaries, regardless of who you're dealing with, and just simply accept the other person's flaws, but stay true to your own boundaries, you'll find that love will win, in the long run. Now, I will be honest, I don't use the term very much, where it comes to my family and what have you. It's just not part of the way I've ever operated. But it's not the words that really make the biggest impact. It's the way you behave, that you treat each other. Okay. Now, you take, for instance, the situation I was just dealing with. That was my little brother. And I know this is nobody's concern, nobody's functional business. But he required a place to store some of his stuff. I've got a storage unit I frankly never use. Like, the only thing that goes into it is spiders. So it's like, okay, if you want to use it, I really don't put it to use, so I'm not going to worry about it. With that in mind, okay, I simply look at the fact, yes, we've got our differences, but it boils down to this. When you're operating from the heart, when you are treating people the way you desire to be treated, it doesn't always work out that you get treated that way, but it does stack the deck in your favor. And the one thing you will find is that as long as you're following karmic law, you at the very least will feel better about the way you're treating people. Now, that reminds me. Again, to give you an idea, and this is why I said I do find that I'm probably a workaholic. I enjoy writing, so I spend a lot of my time doing that. Yesterday, I was actually in the office for 12 hours writing. Not necessarily one of my wisest moves. Now, remember what I said about this thing, okay? Keep a list operational. And the reason for that is because it will help keep things moving in the right direction, especially when it comes to keeping communication lines open. Now, I ran into a problem. I'm really happy that I can help my kids out. Sometimes that boils down to one thing. Because they live with me, sometimes that just boils down to help making sure they get where they've got to be or get up at the appropriate time. But whatever you're doing, okay, is absolutely imperative that you work from the heart. If something bothers you, if somebody asks you to do something and it doesn't feel right, doesn't matter who's asking you. They're asking you to do something and it doesn't feel right to you. You've got to remember, you must love yourself before you can really effectively love other people. Because don't forget, part of the issue of loving yourself is demonstrating to others how that works. Yeah. LA goes, a person can argue, but not against the list. Yeah, what I found with this funny list thing, when I was working, and I'm sure some of you have run into this. Okay, you get into work, doesn't matter what the industry. You get into work and you've got a bunch of things you've got to get done before you can get on with the day. Basically, you're opening a routine. Well, I had a boss that would stack things on me time after time. It's like, Keith, I need this done right away. Keith, I need this done right away. Right. And I finally took to utilizing the list at that point. So I go, okay, these are the things I need to do. And I make them down the list. Then my boss would come and go, Keith, I need this done right away. So I go look at him and go, next on the list. No matter how long the list was, I'd write the item down at the bottom of the list. Then I'd carry on working through. And sure enough, my boss would come to me and go, Keith, I need this done right away. And by the way, you'll notice this applies quite often to your other half or to your kids. Okay, where they'll want something done right away. Okay, so I just go on my list. I go, there, I'll put it next on the list. I'd write it down right in front of him. Okay, and carry on. Then he'd come back with the idea of the second item. Have you got this done yet? I need it right away. I look at him and go, yep, there it is on my list next to do. But you want this item and this item done right away as well. So I will get to it as quick as I can. But this is what's happening first. Right? And of course, me being the subtle individual I am, he'd look at me and go, well, I need it done now. I'd look at him and go, great, go do it. Because it'll get done when I get to it on my list. That's the way it's going to work. This is an issue of loving yourself and putting the appropriate boundaries in place. I just noticed this. LA goes, yep, making coffee tops the list. I usually make my coffee, then I set it up the night before. So when I get in and get up in the morning, I just hit perk. And, well, it's a drip coffee. So I just hit the go button and carry on with my day. But I do agree with you wholeheartedly. See, I've got a number of things here that have to be done. As I said, now this is the neat thing about it. When you're looking at loving yourself, the first thing you got to realize is take a look at what your qualities are. Take a look at what your skill set is. Now, as I've discussed, okay, these funny little things, tarot cards, I've been working with since 1976 was when I got my first deck. Okay, I've still got my first deck. But my youngest son comes to me on a regular basis just to get a little insight. Now, here's the funny part about it. Okay, I remain true to me. And I've told people this consistently. Somebody asked me one day, well, do you require the cards? I'm like, no. The ability I've got, these simply work as trigger marks. But many people, my own son included, find it easier to look at the cards and go, oh, there we go. Will Ryder, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. So that's on my list to make sure I get to do a consultation with him tonight. Okay. And this is what I mean by making absolutely certain that you get things put in order. Now, neat part about it. Let me ask you this. In your eyes, who is responsible for your success? Oh. Whoa. Been there, done that. Was not enjoyable. By the way, that, they call it, you call that a super typhoon. I've seen worse. Actually, I've seen a couple of things worse. But a 40-foot wall of water is no fun to handle coming in. There's no question there. And we will get to that. But that said, now that we know about it, absolutely. Sympathies for those who survive and condolences to those who lost somebody to the water. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Well, it's one shy of what's coming. When we take a look at a typhoon, and this is what I'm referring to, because you'll notice something really important. When I talk about this idea of the power of love, if you'll notice, I'd lay odds that typhoon, number one, didn't check to see who voted for who, did not check to see what people's bank accounts were before it decided to wipe out buildings. Okay, and I'm pretty certain that those of you that got caught in the typhoon, in the water, I'm laying odds nobody stood there on the edge of the river that had people flowing down and going, hey, excuse me, guys, who did you vote for? Oh, look, you've got the wrong color skin. I'm not going to help you. People don't do this. Okay, nobody seems to ask in an emergency. This is the power of love. Okay, you want to see the real power of love? We can look at all kinds of examples of it. And some of it's very confusing. We go back to Christmas Eve of, I believe it was 1914, World War One. Okay, well, more to the point, Christmas Day. There was no ceasefire. Nobody said anything about it. But everybody got the same feeling, stopped shooting at each other, crossed the no man's land, and exchanged gifts, drinks, and sang carols. Now, this is what the power of love can do. Right now, there are multiple countries on the verge of a civil war. Okay, and I don't know if I'm supposed to mention that. You guys get to figure out that. Cowie, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. The reality is, when we start looking at the reality of what's going on, and we literally go, okay, let's pull together. Okay, that's what the power of love can do. Okay, and bear in mind, for those of you that want to get caught up in religious aspects, there is a vast difference between love and lust. Okay, the power of love is one of these things that can help everybody. Even the most cynical individual, it helps. Okay, and now all we have to look at is, where do we go from here? Okay, what kind of ability do we have that we can work with? This is something that's got to be looked at. Now, you take a look at the world around you. Now, yes, we've got this stream, Positive Perceptions. Okay, rest assured, I fight all kinds of things in my own head. Okay, I really do. It is a battle royal up here. But with the support I get from you guys and from certain other people, here's the neat thing about it. Now, some people will take that word support and go, we do that because we love you, for whatever reason. Okay, now, there's all kinds of issues around there. Oh, there we are. Joe goes, just thought I'd share this. Last night I had my first dream about being in space aboard a ship. It's written down in major detail in Dream Journal 4. This is one I'll drop right in your lap directly, Joe. Okay, because I do take submissions from other people. Okay, for Positive Perspectives, for the free magazine. And I'm working on January's right now. December's is already written. I'm in the process of tying off January's. But if you're interested in sharing that, Joe, drop it to me drop it to me online. I can either leave it without a byline or with your byline, your call. But neither event. Okay. If you'd like, absolutely drop it in. I'm personally certain it would make for interesting reading for people. And I know from your standpoint, it's always a, shall we say, a bit of a challenge to figure out whether or not this is real, as it were. Now, having been aboard a ship more often than I can count, okay, I can tell you it's absolutely a rush. Especially when you realize that you're in outer space and you don't have any gravitational field to work with. But one of the best things that the power of love brings is the ability to listen to somebody retell their story without calling them either a liar or without calling them a liar or saying, oh, you're just making that up, or whatever. In order to show love, let the person convey what they're trying to. Sometimes it is just made up. Okay, but understand, like when my kids were little, they would they would listen to the tree, into the branches, brushing on windows. They would be absolutely convinced that they were under attack from something. Now, needless to say, it's a pretty safe bet the trees don't beat on windows on their own accord. But the people going through it don't necessarily know this. So when we look at what's going on in this world, understand the negativity that is running around this world, the fear that is being propagated, is adding to the complication of what's going on in the world. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. I strongly recommend that you really start doing your own research if you're not already. But Kelly, the answer to that question is no. Kelly's just asking, was there any type of time displacement from the time you went on the ship till you returned? Hour for hour, minute for minute. Okay. It was simply I was no longer on Earth. The reality of it is time did not move faster or slower. But I will tell you, it can. For me, time gets confusing anyway. Joe, where we're talking about the dream, the fact it's weird, that's just stock in trade here. If it's worth writing down, in my opinion, in the right circumstances, it's worth sharing. And given the type of people that are subscribing to the channel, to the magazine, given those people, okay, kind of important to realize. It's kind of important to realize that sometimes retelling a story that's weird helps other people look at it at their own life and go, don't know what to do with that. I thought I was the only one. And that can help them feel a little more secure themselves. The storm goes, what's really unnerving is when you hear that noise and there's no tree. And yeah, I've seen that before. It's really fun when you see that. As a matter of fact, where it comes to walking trees, which everybody says, oh, trees don't walk. In Borneo, and do not take my word for it, do your own research. But in Borneo, there is something called walking trees. Now, they don't walk at the same speed that an ant does. Okay, but they certainly walk. Now, let me ask you this. You see a child on the street, they're in tears. Is it going to hurt anybody to look down at the child and just say hello? And I don't mean go anywhere near them. I mean literally just look at them and say hi. That simple act of compassion, of saying, I acknowledge you're there. Oh, there we go. LA goes, those trees can travel like 20 meters a year. Yeah. And, the funny thing is, LA, I saw a satellite picture of those trees. Not satellite, rather, but a drone picture. And I'll tell you, they were moving a whole lot faster than 20 meters. Now, could I find the picture again if my life depended on it? No. No, I'd pretty much be dead. Most of the myths that are going on around here, we got to remember, when we're talking about love, acceptance is part of love. Okay, yes, I will get to the fear thing in a little while. But the reality is, I would rather spend more time on the concept of how to love. And do understand, I am referring to the act of compassion, the act of acceptance. Okay, I'm not talking about what goes on behind behind closed doors. That's for your guys' imagination. But let me ask you this: is putting boundaries down for the people under your protection, such as your kids or your renters or your business patrons, is putting a boundary down an act of control or an act of compassion? Okay. Well, the easiest way to look at that is when you're putting boundaries in place. Number one, are they to keep people safe or to keep the company running, as it were? In which case, you look at it going, do these apply to everybody? If the answer is they apply to everybody, this is how you know that a law is being put in, with love being the backbone of it, as compared to fear. Now, again, guys, if you have a question, absolutely ask, because I can virtually guarantee somebody else that's listening in, either now or down the road, is going to ask the same question. Okay, I know quite often it's very difficult for people to say, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, this is the kind of situation I'm dealing with. And people are very afraid of saying, I'm gonna put myself out, my complaints out, simply because, well, what if other people don't like them? You cannot effectively live your life for somebody else. Lord knows, I had my stroke because I bit my tongue on multiple things that were bothering me. Okay, now I don't know about you, but for those of you that have had a stroke, hopefully you've recovered. Okay, myself, I tried one, that was enough. Okay, so at this point, I'm looking at the world going, where do we go from here? Well, the first thing we do is ask yourself this: when you leave your house, okay, when you see somebody on the street or somebody in a mall that you're walking by, do you ignore them? Okay, do you go through and running this through your head? Oh, if I say something, they're going to think less of me. This is fear. Okay, what if they don't like what I say? Most people don't complain when you smile and say have a good day, although there are exceptions. I remember telling a chap on the street one day, we were just passing on the sidewalk, and as I'm going by, I said, have a nice day. I kid you not, this guy spun around on me. Don't you dare tell me what kind of life day to have. I'm like, okay. Now, I did not say what came to mind, but what came to mind was, please, sir, go play in traffic. I did not actually say that. But most people, if you say hello or good day, they will greet you with a congenial response. This is an interchange of, compassion, of interest, of one of the aspects of love. Okay. But so many people bite their tongue because they are afraid of what other people will think. Okay. I look at it going, I hope other people will think, because I don't know about you, but I do find a lot of people don't tend to think first, if at all. When we start looking at fear, now, love is what puts buildings together. It has the energy of love is why people plant gardens, or why people go into the first responders, or go into the military to defend their family, their community, their country. Okay, the act of defense is part of the aspect of love. Okay, anytime you're reaching out to help somebody, whether it's physically help them or spiritually or mentally, emotionally, you get the idea. Okay, whenever you're striving to assist somebody, you're acting with the power of love behind you. Okay, now, if you're sitting there and if you're one of these people that either does this or knows people that do it, okay, this is what fear does. When you start watching people bully, people lie, people modify the rules for their own benefit, this is the power of fear. Okay, usually we have got the fear of lack, fear of getting hurt, fear of loss, fear of whatever. The more you focus on the fears you have, the more complicated your life is going to be. Now, like I've mentioned, I spent the last 2 years, and you probably wouldn't recognize it necessarily, but my last 2 years, I stayed in severe depression. I was talking to my son about this today. But the reality of it is this. Fear brings about conflict. If it's internalized, it can do such neat little things like, I'm afraid of what other people will say. They won't accept what I'm going to say. They won't get it. So I'm not going to say anything. This was the road I took. It is also the road I recommend you don't take. Okay, I bit my tongue badly to the point of taking all that negative energy, bottling it inside myself, and literally causing a stroke. Now, should I be looking at God and going, it's God's fault I had a stroke? It was meant to be that I had a stroke. Or heaven forbid, one of the major moguls or country leaders is responsible for me having a stroke. I could have gone that road. Okay, I really could have. Fortunately, I went the road of going, nope, I had the stroke because I bottled it. Okay, my responsibility. This is why now I'm looking at it going, okay, if you're having troubles, absolutely find somebody to talk to. Okay, now, if from that standpoint, because here's the way this works. I get people quite consistently that go, can I ask you a question? And here's the reality behind that. You can certainly ask, but because I do things in a certain priority, okay, I've got my writing projects I'm working on, and I've got clients that do pay. I will tell you this, on air here, if you've got a question, absolutely come right out and ask. Okay, the reality is, this is where I do my free time. Okay, this is where I do my free effort. That plus scores in Positive Perspectives in the magazine, I turn around all that information I deal with for free. But if you've got a complicated question, you'd like some extra insight into it, bear in mind, since I was 23, so we're looking at 38 years experience as far as professionally working as a spiritual guide. Okay, I've been paid in excess of $2,600 an hour. I charge $20 for 15 minutes. Okay, that being said, only $80 an hour, which, by the way, boils down to about, I think, let me see here. Take this. We go 80 divided by 2,600. And we are looking at a 97% discount. Okay, so with that in mind, if you've got questions that you'd like to look into, okay, yes, I do charge. But like I said, I either generate an income or I end up on the street. And rest assured, I'm real close to being there. Rachel's just going, I've been in and out of depression for over 2 years since getting sick. Now, I will tell you, depression is one of the hardest things to break out of. However, here's 2 tricks. And again, I'm talking from practical experience. Depression is brought about. Depression is brought about on the backbone of fear. Either you fear you're not good enough or you fear losing more than you already have. I used to fear that what I would say was going to chase people away. Well, I came to the conclusion that I look at the way I'm looking at it now. So many people have told me, "Oh, I really value our connection. I'm not going anywhere." I have buried a staggering number of relationships, as in friendships, because I'm no longer interested in putting additional effort into something I'm not getting a return on. I do not need that. Okay, but where it comes to depression, here's a neat little thing. Okay, here's a neat little thing with depression. And I'm talking about ways that I use that have helped. Find the fastest paced dance music you can find. Okay, crank it as high as socially acceptable and let it run in the background. Because that vibratory rate, that music, will bring your sense of self up on track. Okay, now that being said, that will help immensely. Or at least it did for me. If you haven't tried it, give it a shot. Okay, now myself, I have very rarely utilized St. John's wort. But before anybody does that, talk to your professional. From what I gather, St. John's wort can have side effects with other medications. So again, don't take my word for it. Rest assured, let's face it. I got diagnosed dead. I turned around and said, I don't agree with you. I left. This is not a normal response. Yeah. And there's all kinds of ways of doing it. When we start focusing on fear, and by the way, I keep getting people sending me these little blurbs. Oh, we've got a war going on over here. Newsflash, guys, there's wars all over the world. There are civil wars coming. But we can dwell on those. Okay? I don't even look into them anymore. It's like, yeah, there's a war over here. It's not that I don't care about the people suffering from the war. It's that I care about the fact that much negativity, without looking at, for instance, the little kid I saw today and just today. Nope, yesterday. Little kid, really happy. They managed to blow up their first balloon. And it was funny watching them. Because as you know, when you're first learning how to blow a balloon up, your face can get all red. Depending on what's going on, how you're doing it. Well, this little munchkin got the balloon blown up, and in his excitement, he let go of the balloon. Okay, needless to say, he broke into laughter. And those that don't think laughter is contagious have never been around a kid that broke into laughter. Most of the time when you're dealing with fear generates this. You're different than I am, therefore I'm going to fear you. Or I'm different than you are, therefore I know you're going to fear me. That's the one I went down, where I looked at it going, I know my body responds differently than other people's. I know this is that people have complications. I say I know because having been on this planet this lifetime for 61 years, I've seen people have absolutely negative reactions just because somebody's a little different. Okay, and this is what we have to look at. Yeah, Christine's going, I did use St. John's wort once after a breakup, and I took it for short term. It might have been a placebo effect, but I felt good and didn't care anymore about the breakup. And that's the kicker there, Christine. Number one, if you're taking St. John's wort, I've never heard of anybody getting addicted to it. But even if it turns out to be a placebo, in other words, it just made you think you were feeling better. Who cares? The end result was you felt better. And LA's going, I wonder how often we get up and get upset and messed up over an emotional attachment. And our higher mind is just relieved to have the whole thing resolved. Every time you get upset over an emotional attachment, over a material thing, literally every time you get tied up over it and then you get it sorted out. Every single time your higher mind literally goes, well, thank heavens that's over. Now let's do something else. The reality is it's real easy to die. Take my word for that one. Do not test this. Okay. I personally died because of being, drowning, drug overdose, temperature variation, fever, poison, and epileptic seizure. None of these are enjoyable. Okay. But if you take a look at all the ways you could die, here's the one you really want to look at. How are you going to live? Are you going to live under the shadow of fear? Under people saying, after somebody else going, oh, you didn't do that perfectly right, so you're going to hell, or karma's going to get you. Now, whether you believe it's going to come back around or not doesn't matter. Okay, for those of you that remember this, okay, for those of you that remember playing tetherball, okay, you smack that ball either direction, you hit that ball, and I'll tell you, it'll come back around. Yeah, Joe goes, I don't get upset. I realize it can always be worse. It absolutely can. And it can always be better. Okay. And he goes on to go, I died. It was interesting. Gave me a new perspective on stuff. No doubt. That's not actually what he read or what he wrote, but so be it. Okay. It's the last word I changed. Because like I said, I do my best. Unless I'm mad, I do pay attention to what I'm saying. And for that matter, how I do. How I deal with it. The neat little thing about it is when you focus on fear, you start paying attention to all the negative things going on. Who's going to war? Who's been charged with assault? Who lost? Who won? Pay attention to the more positive side of it. Okay. Now, I believe somebody a little while ago said there's only 7 wars going on in the world today. Okay. Well, if there's only 7 wars going on, and somebody else can figure out if that number is right, how many weddings, how many graduations, how many celebrations are going on? Okay. Because I'll tell you, I am absolutely convinced there is more positive stuff taking place than there is negative. And it really boils down to what you're going to focus on. Now, and I'm just going to paraphrase this. There is an old North American Indian proverb or story. I don't know if I want to call it proverb. Okay, that goes, everybody has two wolves fighting inside them. Okay, one is fear, the other one is love. And when asked which one will live, okay, which one will win? And the answer is real simple: the one you feed. If you like living in fear, can't imagine why, have a happy. But if you're not content with living in the amount of fear you have, start altering your intake. Okay. I will get to that answer in just half a question there, Joe. Okay. Now here's a new one for an interesting one. We have 59, LA's just letting us know there are 59 armed conflicts in the world right now. Question for you, because I know you can find this in a hurry. How many individual countries do we have in the world today that are recognized as countries? Okay. Now, the neat part about it, when we take a look at it, fear is if you're feeding fear, you're going to live your life high stressed, worried, anxious, whole pile of other words that can describe it. Not enjoyable. Okay, it's just that simple. Now, if you look at that, and this is why I say, if you witness one thing negative, look at two things positive. Okay. What do we got here? There we are. Okay, so we take 59 divided by, we've got 195 countries, which means, okay, now understand, some wars take place inside their own country, and I'm not going to try and break that down. But with 59 wars going on, we have somewhere between 30 and 60% of the countries in the world are at war. Bearing this in mind, we're looking at about half the people at war, half the people having a good day. Oh, 136 not in conflict. This is even better. So we're looking at only, 136 out of 195. You're looking at about a third of the country of the world is in conflict. Now, which makes more sense? Okay, and I keep getting people sending me emails or text messages going, oh, this country's at war. How about sending me the information on, hey, this country is doing this in a peaceful fashion? Way more enjoyable. Okay, that's the kind, like Mother Teresa said, I put it one day. Mother Teresa put it this way. She goes, I will never attend a anti-war rally. However, you have a peace rally, I'll be there with bells on if at all possible. Now, Joe asked a question a little earlier. Okay, Joe Monk did. And he goes, Keith, after you died, do you think you became more aware of weird stuff around you? The answer to that is no. In all fairness, I really didn't, Joe. I was already fully aware of the weird stuff when I first came into this world, before I even had my first death. But to me, the way I look at it is this: if what's going on around you is what you would call paranormal, if it's going on around you a lot, if it's real frequent, it's no longer paranormal. For you, it's normal. This is why I tell people that my life is more science fiction than reality. Yo, let me ask you this. And when we start looking at the difference between love and fear, okay, go put this into an interesting terminology. When we look at marriage, what is the number one cause of divorce? Any idea at all? Okay. And again, it really boils down to the difference between the power of love and the power of fear. Now, to be honest, my parents had spent 60 years under one roof. I do not recall them ever fighting. Okay. Like, I just don't recall a fight at all. Yeah, by the way, if we had 195, thanks to Joe Monk, we now apparently have have 196 countries in the world because Joe Monk lives in Jolandia and he's not at war with anybody. Now, if we go that route, of course, we can always take a look at it on the extreme nature and go, we have 8 billion plus countries. But the power of fear is what drives people to raise prices, to do less work, if you will, the whole 9 yards. Okay, if you build your life on fear of loss, you're going to experience a very depressing life. Now, I'm looking at my world going, it's not as fully organized as I'd like. I don't fear it not being organized, but I have found that eliminating the stress does solve a lot of it, does alleviate a lot of problems. And Joe Monk, that is one of the top two. Joe has said money is a major cause of divorce. Money is one of the top two. And yes, before the end of this stream, I will tell you what the number one cause of marriage failure, in my eyes, is. And bear in mind, this is based on over 100,000 clients. Okay, this is not a research piece I ran into that I read up on. And there's number two. Okay, the second most common cause of divorce. It's the second of the second place. Okay, LA Monk is gone. Infidelity is also a major cause of divorce. Now, you're going to love this because this one is literally bar none. This is the number one cause of divorce. And you can do your own research. Absolutely do. Yeah. LA goes, both of those boil down to a lack of compassion, communication. They really do. And communication invariably is a 50-50 problem. But the number one cause of divorce is, brace yourself for it, marriage. Okay? And the reason you know this, and again, just run this through your head. If you don't get married, you will not get divorced. Okay? But when you take a look at it, communication boils down to, I can't afford to be wrong. I've got to be right. And you notice a lot of the time when there's a communication problem, the people don't slow their voice down. They talk over each other and they start screaming at each other. Like being louder is going to make it right. I'm not sure how that works. But anger is a side effect of fear. Okay. Laughter is a side effect of love. Now, I should clarify something here. when you have people that are in pain, if you're laughing at them being in pain, this is not love. Okay. It's when you're looking at things and you're helping people and you're enjoying time together. This is what brings about the laughter. When that's the cause of the laughter, that's where you know love is coming in. Now, let me ask you this. If we look at karmic law, energy out, energy in. Okay. When you look at that, if you talk to your other half or to your friend or to your co-worker in an amicable fashion, okay, they are much more likely to respond in a positive fashion. Okay. But fear drives the wedge between family, between strangers, between countries. That fear is what people keep promoting. Oh, we've got a war going on over here. Start posting like I've seen people do a little more often. Okay. Start posting people's graduation pictures. Okay. Or hey, I was going down the street and I saw this wedding taking place. Now, I will tell you, and some people are going to get upset about this, but I watch Western weddings. Okay. Western weddings are generally speaking muted colors, and of course, the wedding gown is usually white, which is really neat because I can virtually guarantee most of those marriages in today's world, very few people that get married have actually not been together before getting married. But here's the thing. You can look at that marriage. You can look at the white wedding. It's a brand new start, the white wedding dress. It's a brand new start. You've never been down there, and take that as, if you will, that's your new beginning. My understanding is that in Japan, they start the wedding off in a black dress, indicating the end of their marriage, of their life before marriage. Then they take the black off they take the black outer shell off once they go through the wedding vows. This indicates the beginning of their new life. And of course, and somebody out there is going to know this better than I do. I know when we take a look at East Indian celebrations, they are extremely colorful, extremely gregarious. They are having a literal party. I look at it going, they're still enjoying themselves. Why complain about it? Okay. We could go all over the place. I have not done the research, so I don't know all the different routines. Okay. What I do know is if you base your relationship or your life on amicable interaction, this is love driving your life. Okay. And it's that love that will help you see the world in a much brighter way. This is why when I decided to put the magazine together, Positive Perspectives, okay, my entire bad news section. As a matter of fact, give me half a second here. I'm not going very far. Grab that and we go. Here we are. This is just, I think this has it. I hope so. Otherwise, I grabbed the wrong one. Where did I put the bad news section? Here we are. Okay. Now this is literally what started in July of 2023. Okay. But here's the bad news section. This is all I put in for bad news. Okay. We at Inner Voice Enterprises readily acknowledge bad things do happen in this world. As such, we have chosen to do like so many other periodicals and other reporting agencies do, and write an article on the bad things that happen around the world. So, as you travel about your life, find another newspaper, magazine, post, newsletter, or news channel or site by which to get disappointed in people and or depressed. That's the bad news section. And that's where it ends in my eyes. You can look at anything and you can be happy about it. Like for instance, sports. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's just the reality behind it. It's up to you whether you're going to look at it from love of the game or love of the team. Clearly, if you're rooting for one team and they lose, it's going to be disappointing. I can understand this. But there are those of you that follow teams and you literally root for teams that have not won in years. I know this happens, but you've got a choice. When your team wins, absolutely celebrate that team. Okay? If your team loses, or if you're the athlete that you're hoping for loses, certainly there's going to be disappointment. Now, that's given that you're rooting for one or the other. I have seldom missed figuring out who is going to win in any sporting event. Very seldom. And here's the thing. I look at it going, okay, you had a game. And I mean, if I do ever watch a hockey game where a fight doesn't break out, that is literally, to me, there's a cause for celebration. Somebody won, somebody lost, and nobody fought. Okay, we don't have to fight, but fighting is 90% of the time a fear thing. Okay, and it's not a requirement, but we can either focus on the bad things going on and thereby add fuel to the fire. Okay, or you can focus on the good things going on. This is just the reality behind life. And it literally is up to you to decide which one you're going to work on. Okay, you think about it. When like this tsunami that's going on that's just happened here, okay, so many people end up being displaced rather violently, I suspect, from their homes. Now, fear is going to hit first. All of a sudden, your world gets turned into chaos. But it's the love of the neighbors that brings people back in. Because you can bet your bottom dollar, much as emergency crews will get there, you can bet your bottom dollar the number one first responders to any natural disaster, you guessed it, the locals. Okay? And again, get to know your neighbors. Okay? The power of love fuels communication and inter-family support. Okay? And rest assured, if you're friends with your neighbors, if you get along with them, and a disaster does strike, people are much more likely to step in and help each other if they know the person, because we're taught stranger danger. Well, it's a great saying, but if we follow that to its extrapolatory extreme, nobody would be talking to me at all. Because let's face it, where it comes to being stranger, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that fits down that bill more than I do. But it's time we start looking at what is being reported, whether it's social media or the news or some sort of channel. Take a look at it. If they're sitting there telling you how bad the world is, okay, and they're not giving you anything to hope for, and I'm not a good one for hope. To be honest with you, I look at it this way. We can hope something is going to change, and it's got that neat little pen effect. I can hold on to my pen and hope it gets to the other side of the room. Now, if I just hold on to it, even if I lay it there flat, okay, even if I just lay it without holding on to it, all I do is hope it's going to get to the other side of the room. Unless I physically get up and let go and move the arm, that pen is not changing. Okay. Now, yes, I can wait for somebody else to come through the door and move it for me. But one of the things that you got to remember here is if you focus on being nice, and that's all that was said 2,000 years ago, really, be nice to each other. Treat people the way you desire to be treated. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Somehow, with so many people caught up in religion and various different spiritual paths, somehow this simple, fundamental truth got lost. I'm asking you guys to help me bring this back so it becomes commonplace. So being nice does not elicit this sense of fear. Oh my gosh, they're being nice to me. What do they want? I remember sitting in the bar one day and I was drinking with a friend of mine, and a guy I'd never seen before walks into the bar, sits down with us. The bar was packed. And, so we had two people at a table that could handle three. The guy plants himself and goes, I'm buying drinks. I never thought about it. I let him start buying drinks. Right? He gets up and disappears, presumably to the washroom because he came back. My buddy looks at me and goes, What does he want? I looked at him and I'm thinking to myself, that was fear. From my end, it was simple. I don't care. He offered to buy drinks. He's not asking for anything. I'm good with it. Why he's doing it doesn't matter to me. Okay? Because you don't always have to know exactly what's going on. Although my curiosity streak does get the better of me on occasion. But let me ask you this. Which makes you feel better? Watching the news or watching the war reports or the political debates and listening to all that argument, or sitting in a room where a lot of people are arguing with each other? Does that make you feel real good? Or would you rather sit and listen to people laughing, joking, being kind to each other, supportive of each other? Okay, which would you rather? Now, I will tell you, if you don't think laughter is contagious, listen to a child's laugh track. Okay, or listen to a kid when they get giggly. It literally is contagious. And again, the same thing with regards to the music we were talking about earlier. Love will help you complete projects. It will encourage people to help you complete projects. Okay, fear creates ostracization. So the question you have to ask is, are you going to, from this moment forth, are you going to do your best to start literally looking at the world and going, what's going on that's good? What makes me feel better? Okay. Or are you going to continue to listen to people yelling about how bad the world is, how much war is going on, how much corruption is going on? Which one are you going to focus your life on? Myself, I'm going to focus on the good things that are happening. Okay, like you take a look at it. I found out the other day something about my own family. And it really boils down to this. I'm not going to go into it in detail. But it boils down to, okay, I'm not getting the support, even rational support, that I would like to have. So I'm now looking at it going, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to disown them by any stretch. But I'm no longer going to bother paying attention to the idea, paying attention to the idea that with the to the idea that I'm going to get the support. I'm going to wait for that support anymore. It doesn't make sense to me because the waiting is causing way too much stress. And the reality of it is, what I got told one day about procrastinating is you put it off because it is a minor indication of depression. It is also, by the way, procrastination is more often than not brought about by fear. I don't know if I can make this work. I don't know how to do it. I can't do this. I can't do that. This is fear. Okay. If you take that bigger job and you break it down into smaller component parts, you can absolutely get things done. Remember the African proverb: how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Okay. It tells you that, and the saying is, every journey begins with a single step. And in all fairness, I will argue that point. Guys, maybe, well, I guess it would be a single movement anyway. Because if you take both feet, put them side by side, and the first step you make is to jump and hop forward. It's not a step. Okay. Because usually a step refers to one leg or the other. But the important factor is this: you've got the option of changing your life for the better now. Okay. Or you can continue hanging on to all the things that have gone wrong, the number of times you've been disappointed. And rest assured, in my case, been disappointed a lot. Okay. But I have come to the conclusion that once again, I'm going through this roller coaster, and some of you can relate to this. We're running fine, then we get depressed, then we climb up, and then we go back into depression. You notice when you're looking at this, we're looking at a wave. Okay, that's the easy part of it. But it's up to you whether you're going to stay striving to get to the top, because if you keep putting the effort in by taking 2 positive experiences for every 1 negative, you will find that instead of your life doing this, it'll do this. It'll go up, it'll climb higher step by step. Now, yes, you may have setbacks. In all likelihood, you probably will. But this is where the idea of get back on the track, get back on the saddle, if you will. The question you've got to ask is, are you going to let fear, as in the sensation of isolation or the sensation of conflict, are you going to let that guide you down the road to determine whether or not you're having a good day or a bad day? Or are you going to concentrate on the fact of watching somebody open the door for somebody else, or just pass a smile between them? Look at the positive side of things, and you'll find the power of love changes the tide of society. The power of fear will absolutely derail society. And if we keep focusing on all the negative things going on, what we're doing is fertilizing, we are feeding that negative wolf. It really is that easy. Now, we are slowly changing things around here. I noticed yesterday, and of course, this fluctuates, but we are staying over the 640 now. Okay, as far as subscribers go. I've come to the conclusion that I can look at all the negative things going on, I've been doing a severe amount of self-analysis, and I strongly recommend you do the same thing. But analyze yourself, not me. I am absolutely an anomaly. Oh, okay. Can't accommodate the cookie, but I can accommodate food. So give me half a minute and I will be right back. This is what I mean by the fact that LA keeps an eye on things.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And we're back. See, this is why I just went and grabbed just simply a piece of peanut butter and bread and peanut butter, because I don't actually have any cookies in the place. Okay, but when you make the choice that you're going to focus on fear, what you're doing is really offsetting the energy and causing usually a lot of health problems that you may not recognize at the get-go. Too much stress, and by the way, fear causes a lot of negative stress. Okay, yeah, I usually have peanut butter in hand. When I was growing up, when I was younger, I wouldn't eat peanut butter. I didn't like the setup at all. But and of course I did the other thing. The good thing was the bread and peanut butter. The not so necessarily good thing was the small glass of Coke. But it did solve the problem. What I'm looking at is real simple. Okay. I could, and this is the thing about that, about the sugar levels. Doctors can't decide if I've got diabetes or not. What they did though was put me on a medication that dang near made me blind in less than a month. For some weird reason, I decided that wasn't a good medication, so I don't take it. But I have adjusted my eating to accommodate. Unlike my uncle, who was an absolute, well, he was a type 2, he was a type 1 or type 2. I don't know, he was on insulin shots. But he only took half his insulin shots because he topped off his insulin with a 26er of whatever he could get his hands on. Not a good move. But when we look at life, you can focus on the positive things. You can focus on the things that are changing, that bring a smile to your face, or a sense of accomplishment, or maybe a sense of acceptance. And this is why, in spite of the fact that I don't personally go to prayer, I just thought it came out wrong. I don't personally go to church. I do strongly recommend, if you don't have a community of your own already, as in a circle of friends, or if you do, sometimes joining a church, joining a coven, joining a temple, or a support group of one kind or another, sometimes that community will help you feel better. If you join them and you find they're talking about all the bad things, okay, may not be the right fit. Like I remember talking to one person because he said he was a professional counselor. And what he would do is he would literally point out all the things wrong with the person. And I looked at him and I said, why don't you tell them what's right? Well, because I figure if I tell them what's wrong, they can work on correcting it. And I'm thinking, and like I told him, I said, that's a real depressing approach. Because if all you're telling me is everything in my world is bad, I'm not looking to improve it. I've got no hope left. In your guys' case, I will absolutely tell you that in this room, in this chat room, okay, we are doing our best to make it safe for everyone. And this is why when LA's watching, okay, she turns around and goes, Keith, your blood sugar is dropping. Go do something with it. We've had countless cases of people coming into this chat room, feeling a little down, where somebody will open their mouth and give them a pat on the back or a congratulations or whatever. Something to make them feel a little better. Okay? And this is something that absolutely we have to, as a society, as a civilization, we've got to spend more time getting along than we do fighting with each other. Keep going back over this, right? We got 195 countries around the world. 136 are not in conflict. So how about if we start focusing on the idea, concentrate on the ones that are not in conflict, and utilize those comments as ways to encourage the other 30 countries, well, 29 countries, to let go of their conflicts. How about if we start making that the focal point? Not who died, not who caused what conflict, who ripped who off. How about who actually helped who? Okay. I mean, there are bad things that happen. This is why on Facebook, if somebody posts, well, if somebody posts that the child's gone missing, okay, or for that matter, like happened the other day, an animal's gone missing, you can bet what I come across it. I'm going to share it. I won't necessarily say I like it because I don't like people being lost, but I will certainly share it. Now, when people send me a notice that, oh, this place is at war with that one, I may not even bother reading it. Okay, because I'm just not interested in putting the energy into that fear. Yes, this world on its current path is having problems, but by looking at the actual facts of the matter, if 2/3 of the world are not at war, then we're heading the right direction. Okay, the question that you have to ask is, are you going to start focusing on the things that are happening of a positive nature, or are you going to continue spreading the information about what's going sour? Okay, this is just the reality of it. What we have to realize is the power of love will make this a better world for virtually everybody. Meanwhile, the power of fear will destroy what we've already got. Okay, being fear of lack, fear of non-acceptance, fear of individuality. There's all sorts of things you can add the thing to. But how about if we try this one? Love of freedom, love of health, love of communication, okay, or love of creativity. How about if we focus on those? Okay, that's where the change is going to come in. And it's up to you guys to pass this word on. I'm only one person, okay? And just like one person from 2,000 years ago said, be nice to each other and spread the word. I would love to see, literally, like, we've got 643 subscribers. We usually get around 10 to 15 people in the room. I would love to see hundreds or thousands of people listening in. Now, it's a simple message. Okay, working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But it is up to us as individuals to make this happen. That's just the reality behind it. But we've got to put the effort into it. And if we continue to choose not to, we're going to run into all sorts of little problems. But let me ask you, which would you rather? Would you rather we focus on going into a tailspin, or would you rather we focus on rebuilding communication lines? That's the thing you got to look at. And thanks for the hands up, LA. We are down to the 25-minute mark. We have a choice as individuals. We can absolutely focus on love. Okay? And like I said, if you look at the traditional method of prayer, okay, if we look at Christianity, people tend to put their hands together. When you're looking at spirituality, if you keep your hands separated just a fraction, 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch, or 1/2 inch to an inch, okay, feel the energy running between them. Okay, you'll notice looks kind of like praying. What it does is connect both sides of the body in another fashion, which will help your energy levels climb, and net result, help you feel better, thereby helping others. around you feel better. Of course, and I do not know which religion, and for those of you that are of that religion, the fact I don't remember the name, hopefully you'll forgive me. Frankly, I can't do much if you don't. Some people, quite a staggering number, when they go to pray, they get down on their hands and knees and they touch their hands and both hands to the ground, and more often than not, their forehead. This is a way of connecting with the planet. Okay, now how the different ceremonies go, I'm not going to go into. Okay, there's all kinds of information out there. What I will tell you is all of these religions, there are some religions that they literally dance and sing and run around in circles, enjoying the energy of each other. Whatever method is being used, if it lets people feel better, if it guides people to feeling better about their life, then personally I'm of the opinion of, hey, what the heck? Let it happen. But we've got to get it through our heads that if you're one of these people that put your hands together when you're asking for help or when you're celebrating life, or if you're one of these people that you crook your arms together, and I can't do it, but you catch the arms and you run around in circles and dance and gyrate in order to enjoy life. Do not get upset by somebody else's method if they are not hurting other people. Okay? Or if they are not promoting hurting other people, then let them enjoy life the way they will. Okay? Because I will tell you this, as has been said so many times before, the strength of a civilization is literally only as strong as its weakest member. Now, are you one of the ones that is going, let's encourage people, let's bolster people's spirits? Or are you one of the people that goes, you don't agree exactly with what I'm seeing, so I'm going to make you feel really bad. I'm going to tell you you're evil. Okay, growing up, I was told so often that I had a lousy voice, that I couldn't sing. I gave up on it. And it's very seldom in today's world that I ever sing now. I probably could, and of course, some of you are going to sit there going, Keith, just start singing. Okay. And there are some of you that say, well, why bother if everybody's upset? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Maybe one day I will. I'm not holding my breath. But whatever makes you happy, whatever helps you feel better about your day, about your accomplishments, that's what you look at. Okay, yesterday I spent 12 hours in the office going through one conglomerate file to remove a bunch of documents that I didn't require because they were doubled. Okay, now, it was a lot of tedious work, but when I got it completed, I was so much happier about it. Okay, now I'll move on to the next one. But it boils down to taking the time to make it happen. And this is just one of those things we got to look at. One of the biggest things that I have found is if you let love drive your life, if love is what is powering your life, that is what's going to happen. That is what is going to help. Okay, it boils down to love makes you feel better, fear makes you feel worse. Which one are you going to focus on? I know in my case, I am doing my best, and this is why I say I've got the magazine Positive Perspectives and this live stream Positive Perceptions. You'll notice the first word is positive, not negative perspectives, or depressing perceptions. Okay, I could do something like that. I don't see the point. Now, let me ask you this. If you had the option of listening to somebody tell you how bad the world was and give you nothing to work with to make it better, are you more interested in listening to that? Or is it more enjoyable or more refreshing to hear somebody say, yeah, we've got problems, but here's what we can do because there is way more beneficial. Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, if you think about it, most people know they've got a couple of really close friends. Okay, but if you've got a bunch of really close friends, how many really adverse enemies do you have? Yeah, Storm's going, opinions are like a-holes. Everyone has one, but most others stink. But most other people stink. Pretty much. I'm a firm believer that I am, well, like I said, the best way to be is a pessimistic cynic with philanthropic tendencies. Absolute chaos inside my head. Okay, but what I have found is some of the most negative people you run into have some of the most positive input to add to people. The guy that taught me how to communicate, I kid you not, the guy used to break people's arms for a living. Okay, now that was decades ago, but he got out of it and learned how to take that negative approach and go, here's what you can do to be better. And he didn't even turn around and say, I'm going to teach you how to communicate. He just started taking me out to coffee, and he would interact with with the waitresses and what have you, which I never spoke to them before. Okay, you go back to my early adulthood. I would not say 2 words to somebody if they weren't carrying the conversation. And that was even with when I'm dealing with me to another male. If I was looking at a female, I got news for you. I never even opened my mouth unless they approached first. Okay. Of course, now we have the problem I don't seem to be able to shut the thing. But we are looking at a world available to us right now where we can literally start living our life in a positive fashion. We can reach out to each other, see the things that are going on that are good, and broadcast those. Yes, we've just gone through an election, and there's all kinds of screams about foul play in the whole 9 yards. And I don't care what country it's in. This happens every time. Okay, I know some people that literally went, I'm not voting, period. There's nobody to choose from, so I'm not voting. I went with the idea of, if I don't vote, I don't have a functional right to say, well, that person got into it and I don't like that person. Because I didn't vote to try and make it not go that way. Now, I have no idea. Here's the thing. Where it came to the election up here, I voted. No, I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. But I will tell you, I have no idea who won. I did my part. I voted and left it go. Now, does this make me a contributing person to the problem? Probably. I'm breathing. Okay. But we've got to start looking at what is going right. Okay. I can look at the chaos I went through. Oh, here we are. It goes very on. I just point this out before the show ends. A helicopter is circling the cemetery for some reason, and I don't know why. And it was dark a long time ago. Well, could be one of the ghosts is looking for a ride, and just needs a lift to a cemetery a fair piece away. That might be a taxi going on. I wouldn't hold my breath on that, Joe. But it's always fun, it's always interesting what's going on in that graveyard behind you. The neat part about it, cemeteries are invariably active. When people say they're quiet, these are people that don't pick up the energy patterns. But I'm looking at this world going, what are we going to do together to turn this around? Now, I could go into a whole pile of negative things and tell people how mad I am about the world, about the state of the world. But how about if we go with this? We have actually 2/3 of the world in conflict. Okay. Instead of saying a third of the world, instead of going a third of the world is at odds with each other, I'm going to look at it and go 2/3 of the world are at peace with each other. This is the important factor. That's the number we've got to focus on. Okay, that is the number that has to change direction. What did I get here? And before we run out of time here, just a quick reminder, and who was it? Storm, I suspect. We've got to play a blurb up on the screen right now, reminding us, Nathan from the Quantum Show, tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Okay, and all you do is go to www.youtube.com/ampersand, which is your @ Quantum Show 2022. Okay, drop in, give him a listen. He usually has some pretty interesting things going on. Now, given the number of things I've got going on, whether I make it or not is a toss-up, but we'll see what happens. The thing we got to look at is when you're like the reason I support Nathan's shows and the reason I have supported Dave's shows, with Spaced Out Radio, is because they give, in my opinion, they give quality input, quality content. And yes, some people will not like it, some people will. I just go, this is what I look at. Now, to be clear, I tap into very few shows. Okay, I spend my time here, and then I've got so much else on the go, I seldom actually go on to another show. But when invited, and I've mentioned this before, if you're wanting me to come on a show, let me know before 8 p.m. PST. That's right, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Because quite often, if I'm not aware it's coming up, I'll be asleep by the time 10 o'clock rolls around. Of course, I'll be back up at 1 o'clock in the morning. But when you look at the reality of the world, if you are concentrating on the negative, you are thereby feeding the negative wolf and giving it the strength to completely turn your life upside down. When you decide you're going to focus on the positive things, on the power of love, you're going to end up turning around and drawing that positive interaction to you. Okay, for me, it's simple. I no longer desire to have a negative life. Okay, I no longer desire to suffer from that. Doesn't mean I won't have my hiccups. Okay, I will tell you, and I've mentioned this before, we go back to this idea of the power of love. My other half is coming up here. It has been confirmed. She's coming up here to spend a week with me in my home. Well, more to the point, in my country, in my city. Okay, this is literally coming about because we decided to work on the power of love, not the power of fear. Now, yes, we both got our holdups. We both got our anxieties. But we're moving forward with the idea that working together, we can make our worlds better. Okay, I encourage you to do the exact same thing. Okay, every time you witness something negative, turn around and witness two things that are positive. Experience two things that are positive. Every one you experience that is negative. In doing this, you will find that you have more and more of a positive outlook on life. Now, I've got a very positive outlook. I am absolutely positive if mankind continues treating each other the way it is, we are going to have a shambles of a future. Okay, I'm absolutely positive of this. Of course, I am also absolutely positive that when we start treating each other decently and communicating honestly with each other, we will have a civilization that is absolutely phenomenal. And I am absolutely positive if we do nothing, nothing changes. Well, I shouldn't say that. If we do nothing, things will change of their own accord. We will have no impact on it. Okay? Unless you call the impact of doing nothing, and if you call that doing something, then you get what's already in motion. Think about it. You're going to a hill or to a staircase and you trip. Okay? Gravity will make you fall downstairs. If you do nothing to break your fall, okay, aside from slapping your face on the staircase on occasion, if you do nothing, you're going to continue falling. Okay, it is time that we start really looking at each other and going, what is the positive thing you bring to the table? What are you bringing into an environment? Okay, ask yourself this one. Are you bringing a sense of acceptance, a sense of love, a sense of support into the environment you're heading into? Or are you bringing in a sense of fear, anxiety, anger, depression? What is coming across your lips? Okay. Are you telling people how good the world can be? Or are you telling the world how bad the world is? Whatever you focus on, whether you're focusing on sharing the positive things in life, the things based in love, based in support, or you decide to promote the negative things, the things based in fear, based in war, based in anger, whichever one you're going to promote, okay, that's the one that you're going to get. And there's no nice way to put that I'm aware of. Okay, it's your call whether you're going to focus your energy on the power of love and sharing that power, or are you going to share the energy of fear, anxiety, and negative propaganda? It is your call. So, as the saying goes, it is wise to choose wisely. You're the one that controls where your life is going. You're the one that's got the ability to get up, walk across the room, and change something. Okay, absolutely turn to groups that can help you feel like you belong somewhere. Because every entity I know of desires to belong somewhere. Okay, we're all pretty much the same in that aspect. And what we are looking at this point in time is a situation where we can leave the world as it is, or we can let it collapse, or we can do something about it. Your call. Now, I've just been notified we are at the 5-minute mark. So, I want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really do appreciate it. Absolutely, I encourage you to utilize the power of love instead of the power of fear. I will be back. I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes,